Hi all, welcome to another episode of the Urban Economist, where today we will be discussing the Fisherman's Bend Precinct. Today I have a community member and three professionals from the industry to discuss the project and its potential benefits and concerns. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Ned, our community stakeholder. Thank you.
G'day Ant, how you going? As a current community member of Fisherman's Bend, I've read a lot of articles and a few things about the current renewal of the area and its surroundings, and I've read that it's going to add 80,000 houses for residents in the area, as well as a potential 80,000 jobs. And I've also heard that it's going to be a benchmark sustainably, with 5,000 square metres being built to 5-star rating. I was just wondering what your and the experts' perspectives were on current benefits that the renewal will offer to not only the community but the wider community as well.
Thanks for the question, Ned, and thanks for having me on the panel tonight. Hopefully I can offer a good economic insight into the Fisherman Bend development. Currently, the Fisherman Bend precinct hosts just 200 residents, supporting 30,500 jobs, predominantly in the manufacturing, construction and wholesale trade industries, which has a gross value add of $3.8 billion. Gross value add is defined as the dollar value for the amounts of goods and services that have been produced, minus the cost of all the inputs such as raw materials. Since 1990, we've seen a downward trend in the gross value add percentage of manufacturing industries and a rise in the gross value add of professional financial services and healthcare. This trend will be continued in the new Fisherman Bend development, as we'll see a decline in manufacturing jobs but a rise in professional financial services and healthcare jobs. The current vision for the Fisherman Bend development is that by 2051 the population will increase to 80,000, supporting 59,000 jobs, nearly doubling the gross value add to $7.5 billion. Fisherman's Bend currently contributes $1.37 billion in tax revenue. Now this figure is also expected to dramatically rise with the influx of working class population and addition of many private businesses. The development will also bring additional housing to Melbourne city centre, including 6% that has been classified as affordable housing. Hopefully this influx of supply onto the market will settle the housing market slightly, reducing prices and relieve some pressure on first home buyers or investors. Although the finished precinct will support 59,000 jobs, the development of the precinct itself, as it's driven by private development, will create hundreds of thousands of jobs across all industries, providing huge economic benefits to the Melbourne area.
Thanks, Anthony, for having me on your podcast, and thanks, Ned, for your questions regarding the Fisherman's Bend precinct. I'm from a development company who own a particular portion of the Fisherman's Bend precinct in the employment district. In regards to benefits of the development, every bit of the development is private development and it's sectioned into 5 districts with various residential and commercial uses for business and living, with affordable housing and regular housing. The development overall has been master planned very well to include all uses, but even though it's a private enterprise, a lot of opportunity for developers to look after the community and develop a solid project for the community, as well as to make their own profit and revenue. For instance, things that developers are building in the community, there's going to be 4 primary schools and a public secondary school. There's going to be multiple health, arts and sports community hubs in the area with 80,000 residents, and 6% of those residents are going to be affordable. It's going to be affordable housing. So it's not all about the margins and the profit in this precinct, but just making sure it's a real community-based area. And with minimal government intervention, that means things can get pushed faster and more efficiently. I believe that the Fisherman's Bend precinct to Melbourne can be like what Brooklyn is to New York, and how there's many benefits to having the two very, very well connected, and they're almost extended arms of each other rather than 2 disconnected islands. So I believe that if we can get that integration correct, then it'll be a very, very sustainable and very efficient development.
Ned, one of the planning benefits of the Fisherman's Bend project is that with an area of 485 hectares, more than twice that of the CBD, every property will have the environment prioritised during the town planning phase to ensure that Fisherman's Bend is as green as possible, with vast amounts of space allocated for parks, sporting and recreational areas, which will help to promote healthy lifestyles for those that use the space. The large influx of properties in the area will ultimately create the demand for greater access to and from the area. This will inevitably mean that we need to expand our railway network and provide the opportunity to plan a system that can transport users to and from Fisherman's Bend safely and actively, whilst also allowing for new bike tracks and walking paths to promote a healthy lifestyle.
There does seem like a lot of positives that have come out of the discussion and all the good things that Fisherman's Bend are going to have to offer to the community. But from the community's perspective, there were a few concerns, in relation to things such as future growth, for example, and maybe potential promises that may not be able to be fulfilled. The community was just wondering, from your specific fields, if there are any concerns that are related to the project.
We appreciate your concerns, Ned, as a community member, but from an economic standpoint, there are very little concerns surrounding this development. One that has been raised, however, surrounds the issue with private ownership of the entirety of Fisherman's Bend, which will limit the government's ability to influence land use outcomes. Now, there is a couple of things incorrect about this concern. Firstly, the government still has significant control over the land use through zoning and planning overlays that they implement. And secondly, historically, privately owned businesses are a lot more efficient and productive than state-owned enterprises, due to their exposure to increased competition and restraints such as time pressures and profit generation. Privately run businesses generate a lot more GDP and a lot more tax revenue than state-run businesses. Therefore, this project, as it's being developed by private enterprises, should in fact provide more economic benefits than if it were publicly developed. Now, housing affordability is another concern. Only 6% has been classified as affordable housing. However, the affordability of the rest of the development will be determined by the market, and by going off the median house prices of surrounding suburbs such as Port Melbourne and Albert Park, which are amongst some of the most expensive in Melbourne, housing affordability could be a concern. And my last concern is the loss of jobs for those in the manufacturing industry. So although the project will support twice the amount of jobs as there is currently, these new jobs are focused in different industries, meaning that those currently in the manufacturing industry, 4,160 workers to be exact, are expected to be laid off to make way for the professional services, financial services and healthcare sector in the Fisherman Bend precinct.
Hi Ned, thank you for your concerns. I would also like to add, from a development point of view, that I have two main concerns, and that is finance and access and transport to the site. With finance, the current rules and regulations around bank finance all comes down to pre-leases and pre-sales. So it's whether you can cover your interest on your loan with the pre-leases and pre-sales, and you need at times up to 2 times interest cover. So leases will have to be, the sum of all leases will have to be 2 times the amount of interest, just in case there are market fluctuations. And the banks can be repaid and we can decrease the loan. My secondary concern is access and transport and amenity in the precinct. There is going to be 80,000 jobs there, and 80,000 jobs means 80,000 employees going there to and from work every day. So we just need to make sure that the infrastructure upgrades at the same time that the development upgrades. Otherwise, you will absolutely gridlock the area and it won't actually be a pleasant place to work. And therefore, that's where you're also going to struggle. If people see there's no amenity there, then people won't want to put their businesses there, which means you won't get the required amount of pre-leases, which brings it back to the finance. So it's all about making sure that we can develop the infrastructure as well as develop the project to make the whole thing marketable and sellable. And that way we should not run into any issues, and I will be very confident that we can plan this out and make sure that it works.
However, the project does have some negatives from a town planning perspective. While the space is large, it is confined in where it can expand. It's bordered by the Yarra River and Port Phillip Bay, meaning that the space will be highly dense and therefore strategic planning needs to be made to ensure that the supply of properties in the area is met by demand. Additionally, a majority of the land in Fisherman's Bend is privately owned, with many operating as industrial businesses currently. A slow release of land and past usage of that land that may be contaminated may lead to lengthy delays in the initial phases of the project.
After hearing about all the benefits and concerns of the project from the panel and from the community, I'd like to ask you another question. Do you believe that the project should and will go ahead?
Yes, personally I do believe the project should continue, as it seems like there are a lot of positives and benefits that are going to come out of the project that's not only going to affect the community but hopefully the broader community and people involved around. And after listening to you guys talk today and what you have to say, it sounds like it's on the right track. Thanks for your time.
Economic standpoint, the Fisherman Bend development will bring more jobs, more growth, more revenue, more housing and more education to this area of Melbourne CBD. These benefits far outweigh the concerns of the private development of the site and the shift in the dominant occupation of the site. Therefore, the project's economically sound and should definitely go ahead.
Overall, there are many benefits and there are also some concerns to the Fisherman's Bend precinct. However, I do honestly believe that once the concerns are master planned out, that there will be no problems, and I think it would be a great development. Looking forward to the future. Bring on the future for this project. 100% back it.
Ultimately, I believe that the Fisherman's Bend project should go ahead, as it's an amazing opportunity to add residential and working places so close to the CBD on land that is currently underutilised.
I'd like to thank our experts for joining the Urban Economist episode tonight. I just want to say thank you again to all the viewers and listeners out there. If you require further information regarding the Fisherman's Bend project, please go to my website in a couple of weeks' time where there will be a full report posted. Thank you.